please. Mr. Nurnberger?
I don't have those call sheet with me, so
Yolanda's going to fill in tonight.
Okay, Ms. Wilkins?
thank you.
So, Sherry Bilderback, Michael Damien,
Here.
Mark Bavaza, Rebecca Jacobs,
Here.
Jeff Moore,
Here.
Paul Moran, Hart Nelson, John Newberger,
Here,
John Ritter,
Here.
Lisa Shearing,
Here.
Tom Shipley.
Here. Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilkins. We have approval of the minutes from October 14th meeting. Is there any objection to approving those minutes by acclamation? Seeing none, they shall be approved. We have the one item under old business. We've taken this up multiple times. This is the proposed swim school at the corner of Hanley and Manchester. See, we have Mr. O'Halloran, Mr. Meyer, so the usual suspects, Mr. Parks. Gentlemen, is there any change? There were several recommendations that were made at the last meeting. How has your application changed since our last subcommittee meeting?
Well, good evening. I would ask Mr. Parks to take us through the changes that have been made since the last working session we had a couple weeks ago.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hearing us this evening. So since the last meeting, we've done several things. We've additional communications with MoDOT regarding the entrances and improvements along Manchester. We've added those improvements to our drawings. You should have all seen those. There will be a need for additional coordination so that the plantings in association with the MoDOT plan can be updated to accommodate the entrance location for the Foss Swim School. Additionally, we got some comments back from the fire department. They found our turning templates acceptable, and they requested that we add a fire department connection and a fire hydrant. Both of those items are fine with us. We'll get those updated prior to the Board of Aldermen meeting in December. And then next we had several updates to the landscaping plan, and our landscape architect DTLS, Gabe Presley. He's on here this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to him so that he can walk us through that.
Sure, yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure if it's easier for me to present, but I think in general, briefly, we adjusted the landscape plan to accommodate, I believe, all of Mr. Frankie's comments from his first review. One of the big items was to visit the site and to assess existing trees between the two retaining walls on the northwest side. I did that, and we had a follow-up call with Mr. Frankie to discuss as well. My findings were that the landscape between the two walls appears to have originally been burning bush, which is an ornamental non-native shrub. It's about half existing. It's in a pretty ragged shape. The other half of the retaining wall is invasive bush honeysuckle. And I believe that most of the tree species that are growing there now, some of them which are approaching, I would say, maturity, are mostly volunteer species that are essentially, carried in by birds or the wind, but growing at the edges of the retaining walls. And those include the aggressive and very invasive tree of heaven, black locust, which is native but a pretty aggressive tree, and is sometimes considered ornamental, as well as Callery or Bradford pear, which is considered an invasive species. So in lieu of saving any of those mature trees for fear that it might damage the retaining walls, our landscape plan is proposing a pretty robust native landscape that's a mix of evergreen trees, flowering understory deciduous trees, and native ground covers, including fragrant sumac and goldenrod, to bring some color and life into that space and to be a more appropriate size as it matures. That's probably the biggest thing. Everything else is plan updates as required with the shift in the plan following
Okay.
MSD's comments, that kind of thing.
Gabe, I think it would be appropriate to the resulting site plan change with our meeting with Mr. Frankie, where we changed the parking on the south side. Either you or James should address that in terms of the space that's been made available there.
Yeah, James, you want to give that a shot?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Paul. So yeah, during our meeting with Manager Frankie, we determined that we could gain some site efficiencies, reduce the pavement footprint, and come up with some space to dedicate to the city for the site monuments, or for the city monument sign. We were able to eliminate some hardscape. We didn't lose any parking stalls. I think we might have lost one, but we're still within the needs for the facility. Another item that I wanted to touch on as well is the eastbound left turn lane on Manchester and the request for that. We did have some conversations with TWM, who's the traffic engineer for MoDOT. And essentially the comment from them is that it's recommended that the city of Brentwood approach MoDOT to make the request for that left turn lane. But I'd also like to state that the Foss Swim School team is in support of that left turn lane, that eastbound left turn lane. So also wanted to bring that up.
Okay, so with regard to my understanding is that other than the eastbound left turn lane, the applicant has incorporated all of the recommendations of CVB. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you'd be comfortable with a condition that the applicant use best efforts to coordinate with the city to get that eastbound left turn lane approved. You comfortable with that?
I don't want to speak on behalf of Craig, so I'll let him chime in.
We'd be okay with that condition, yes, thank you.
In the landscape plan, I see a updated report from Mr. Frankie. Mr. Presley, has everything in that updated? It was just from yesterday, so I don't know if you've been able to.
To be completely honest, I just received it probably 5 minutes ago. So I have not had a chance to look through it in detail. I did skim over it, and I think his comments are reasonable from what I can see, and we should be able to incorporate them.
Okay. So I would just, as I've said before, I've been very impressed with this applicant's willingness to incorporate the commission's requests for improvements and the commission's consultants' requests for improvements. So this is no exception, but I'll open it up to the commission. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments on this application? One of the outstanding items was that we were waiting for potential competitors for this site for development. And there are no such competitors. So this application was already being judged on its own merits. But that being said, there's nothing else to consider at this point. So I think it's incumbent on the commission to either give an up or down vote to this application on its merits. And I think we're ready to do so tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the condition as stipulated, as you mentioned, that the applicant will work with the city to make best efforts on the left turn lane.
Second.
Okay, there was one other item, the formal cross access easement with 8077 Manchester. That was a staff recommendation. Is there any comment on the part of the applicant on that issue?
I've been notified that the document has been signed and is en route from China, where the owner of the parcel currently resides. We were anticipating to have a copy of that via FedEx today, but I've not received it to date. But as soon as we receive it, we'll pass it along to the city.
Okay, any objection by the person that made the motion or the person that seconded the motion to including that condition as well?
No. No objection.
Motion to approve the application with those two conditions. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. You will be forwarded to the Board of Aldermen with the recommended approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you, gentlemen, for your cooperation. Ms. Kirkmeyer?
Chairman, so this afternoon when I talked to the applicant, it was James actually. I don't know, they had asked about when it goes before the Board of Aldermen, which it would be scheduled for public hearing on December 7th. And it would be in the form of an ordinance, so it would take a first and second reading. I don't know if they were still contemplating if they were interested in a first and second reading at the December 7th meeting. But if they were, then that would be something that the commission would have to recommend to the board. So I don't know what they decided though.
Anyone have an objection to a recommendation that the application is appropriate to take up in the same meeting, first and second readings?
No objection. No objection.
Okay, so Ms. Kirkmeyer, that would be by acclamation, that's the recommendation of the commission.
And then the only other thing is, and I didn't get this in before the vote, but out of the attendees, I don't know if there was someone that still had any questions.
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I apologize. Is there anybody from the public that would like to offer a comment or have a question on this application? Yeah, you're exactly right. Sorry about that.
I don't see any hands raised. Okay,
I don't
thank you.
either. Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Halloran, Mr. Presley, Mr. Parks. What else we got here? Mr. Meyer.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is to amend the site development plan for the property at 1002 Hanley Industrial Court. Mr. Hoffman, if you could please introduce yourself and present your request.
Great. Chris Hoffman here from Hoffman Brothers. Nice to meet all of you, and I appreciate all of your time. I'm joined by Joe Feldman of Cochran Engineering, who helped prepare the site plan for us that was submitted with our application. And before I dive in, I did want to point out my first time going through this, so I wanted to express my gratitude to Lisa. I think I appreciate your patience and your help as you sort of guided us along to get everything prepared for today. So thank you, Lisa. A little bit about Hoffman Brothers. We're a mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractor, moved to Brentwood in 2017. We were down in the city until that point. Since relocating to Brentwood in 2017, we've added our head count here in St. Louis, grown by about 150 full-time team members, and anticipate some additional growth beyond that. So as a result, we've acquired several additional properties back here in Hanley Industrial Court. Started with 1025 Hanley Industrial, which was a 30,000 square foot property. Acquired the property immediately to the north, 1001. That's an additional 30,000 square feet. And then the target property that we'll be discussing tonight is 1002 Hanley Industrial Court, which is across the street from those other two properties I just mentioned. And so that property, prior to our use, it was used by Renew Transfer, which was a last mile furniture distributorship. So delivered for Ethan Allen, delivered different brands that I think most of us would recognize. So high activity level. There were semi-trailers loading and unloading there. Quite frankly, it was somewhat painful and prohibitive to, I think, traffic and other things in that area. So I wasn't upset to see them go. And I'm also very mindful of making sure that our use does not have the same impact, but also that our use is consistent with Brentwood's comprehensive plan, which I've taken the time to read, and I appreciate and value what's in there and the vision behind that. So our intended use, everything that we have, our HVAC installation projects division, particularly the residential side, starts projects every day 8 to 12 projects a day. And for us, our days start very early, particularly in the summer when it's hot. We want to get on site as early as we can. So where I have a bottleneck and what my need for that facility is I need to be able to stage all of those jobs the day prior to them going out. And then I need all of them to depart the facility, between 6:30, 7 a.m. at the latest to get to those jobs, which start at 7 a.m. And so I've designed this facility to accommodate some of our inventory needs, our light warehousing. So think like residential furnaces and air conditioners to support sort of those retrofit projects that happen every day. We only need in that footprint. So there's the bulk of it's sort of an office, a warehouse sort of staging area setting. And then we wanted to, if you look at the front of that building, it looks sort of dilapidated. It looks like that section that was added, that single story office that's there now was added at some point after the initial construction of that building. I don't think the aesthetics are great. I don't think it contributes or adds a lot to the values of that area or the appearance of that area. So what we did is we wanted to rip off that front section and replace it with a 2-story section. And we will only have everyone that will be working there after this project are folks that work for us today currently. So it's about 8 people, 5 on our installation projects team, 3 in our warehouse that will be based out of there full time. And they're all folks that currently come to work every day and park in our existing spaces and lots across the street from where they are now. I will note, which has been sort of a silver lining for us with COVID from a parking perspective. We have a great number of our workforce, particularly our customer experience team that answers inbound calls working remotely. We've made big investments in technology that allow them to do that. So what we're seeing is our parking demand has declined from what we thought the need would be because we've been able to transition folks remotely. But our intended use then is just for our HVAC installation projects team to move over there to stage those jobs, have some inventory space, warehousing space over there. And then hopefully make the building look like a great addition to the street and hopefully consistent with the comprehensive plan.
We certainly appreciate you as a strong corporate citizen in the city, Mr. Hoffman. Ms. Kirkemeyer, staff report.
So the only thing probably to add to Chris's report is just that there are other improvements that are planned with the landscaping, and now we're actually going to have some buffering along the south property line. And so what's there right now on the south property line is just an old railroad stub, and it looks pretty bad. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it or not, but a landscape plan was submitted with this proposal as well. So I think, again, looking at how it's in keeping with the comprehensive plan, I'm really glad to see the appearance wise, it's going to look much better than what we have right now. So, and, back on the architectural standards, I did not realize that I didn't have really the cut sheet of the materials to be used. Then Chris went ahead and sent that to me, I think last week maybe. So I forwarded that to the commission. And I think, again, with the material types that are proposed for this project, what it's going to do is it's going to take still a large building, an industrial building, but I think with now the facade treatments and everything to the building and the type of material selected, I think it's going to blend in much better. It's not going to just look like some old warehouse building. So again, I think that's in keeping with the comprehensive plan. This all is a permitted use in the light industrial district. So the only thing really that this project needed was the site plan review. So I think for consideration as the commission is just to see if these improvements do fit in with the plans of the comprehensive plan, as well as the sub-area plan that we developed for the Hanley Industrial Court area, which I think it does meet that criteria. And I think that's all I had to cover.
Okay. I thought it was a very competent presentation. Appreciate the effort with it. And we'll open it up to the commission for questions. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could note only one thing, I will recuse myself from this vote simply because the college does in fact have students that get hired by Hoffman. I'm also a client of theirs, so please don't take anything into that recusal. I think it's a great application and I really appreciate what it's going to do for that area.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any other members of the commission like to comment on this application? Yeah, like I said, I think it's a sorely needed improvement to this area of town, and we appreciate all the efforts Hoffman Brothers has done over the years for the city. Is there any member of the
Michael,
city?
may I add
Yeah.
one other thing just for, I think, which may be useful for context for the committee? Our plan in the long run too, which is I think about developing this area and developing in a way that's consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is our intent at some point to bring before either this commission or the Board of Aldermen some additional changes to those two properties that are across the street from this target property, possibly connecting those two facilities, unifying the facade, an entirely new landscaping plan and signage. But with this phase one, we intend to invest $1.5 million to $2 million to complete this project, but several additional $1 million following on to connect and unify the other buildings that are adjacent and across the street, so that there is sort of a comprehensive unifying theme and appearance and aesthetic to those properties. Because I think for us in particular, as a company that cares a lot about quality and doing things the right way, we want a workspace and a facility and a campus that reflects our commitment to quality and sort of our standards there. And I thought it would be useful to point out, share that sort of phase two vision with the committee as well.
Excellent. Even better. Ms. Kirkemeyer, can you please make sure the minutes reflect that representation? We look forward to working with you again in the near future, Mr. Hoffman. Any further questions or comments from any other commissioners? Any questions or comments from any member of the public? Okay, entertain a motion. Mr. Shipley?
Motion to approve the site plan improvements to the existing office warehouse building at 1002 Hanley Industrial Court as submitted.
Second. I second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Shipley, second by Ms. Schuring. Any further discussion? Okay, I guess actually we should have done a roll call. There were no votes on the last one, so why don't we do a roll call? Ms. Wilkins?
Okay. Michael Damien,
Yes.
Mark Favazzo,
Yes.
Rebecca Jacobs,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Hart Nelson,
Abstain?
Paul Moran,
Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes.
John Newberger,
yes,
John Ritter,
Yes.
Lisa Shearing,
Yes.
Tom Shipley.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Mr. Hoffman, you can work with Ms. Kirkemeyer as to the next step. We appreciate the application.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate your help and your support.
Very good, thank you. Aldermanic report, I see no aldermen or women. City planners report, Ms. Kirkemeyer?
Just that the two applications tonight will both be put on the December 7th Board of Aldermen agenda.
Any questions from Ms. Kirkemeyer? Okay, no need for a subcommittee meeting. Rationale, Ms. Kirkemeyer can handle. Any other business this evening? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
second,
Motion by Mr. Nelson, second by Mr. Nuremberger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you, commissioners.
Have a good night, everyone.
Everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bye,
your time.
everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.